morning, world.
Good morning.
So today we're going to do something we haven't done before. We're going to react to a video for a Fireside Chat of Dennis Prager. He does these weekly Fireside Chats, and he has some good philosophical questions usually. And this one kind of fit our wheelhouse.
Yep.
So we're going to hit that. For those of you who aren't familiar with Dennis Prager, he's the one who introduced Larry Elder to the world.
All right, you guys, stay tuned because you're going to be in a treat for some real hardcore wisdom. Stay tuned. I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian, and this is Cedric and Brian. Before we get to it, we gotta make some money. We're capitalists on this station. If you don't know that by now,
it's a bad word.
We are capitalists.
Might be a bad word.
All right. So we need to promote our product, and to do that, you have to be prepared. So, are you prepared?
Like Brian says, are you prepared? Do you have enough food, water, and other essentials to get you through tough times? If not, check out My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's #1 preparedness company, and they've served millions of American families just like yours. Right now, you can save 25% off their popular 4-week emergency food kit, which will keep you well fed for 4 weeks worth of breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and snacks, totaling over 2,000 calories a day. This food stays fresh for up to 25 years in proper storage, so it will be there when you need it. In fact, you may need it a lot sooner than that.
So don't wait. Go to www.preparewithcedricandbrian.com. That's www.preparewithcedricandbrian.com. I was going through the catalog of Dennis Prager, and I caught this one. This one was out a week or two ago, and the top subject of it, what he does, he just takes a thought and he talks about it, and then he answers questions. So we're not going to go over his questions. Go watch the actual video on PragerU.com to watch the whole video and check out some other ones. But we're going to take the part where he goes over a book for 6th graders. It's called, this is an anti-racist book. Mm-hmm. So right there, I had to send it to Cedric.
So it's very important to teach 6th graders about anti-racism.
Yeah.
Forget about math and science and English.
Yeah, so let's hear what Dennis has to say.
So apparently, this is a book that's used in what grades?
It's used, I believe, in a middle school.
In a middle school? In Burbank, California?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's California.
Enough said right there.
And I'm sure elsewhere as well. This book is anti-racist. 20 Lessons on How to Wake Up, Take Action, and Do the Work by Tiffany Jewell. Let me read to you a little about Tiffany Jewell, by the way. Tiffany Jewell is a black biracial writer. Why? How can you be black biracial? Can you be white biracial?
So Dennis always asks great questions.
He does. Well, Brian asked me this question earlier before we started recording about being black biracial because my children are biracial, mulatto, whatever you want to call it. But you're either one or the other. You're either biracial or you're black.
Or you're white.
You're biracial or you're white. You can't be black biracial, but I guess that's saying that although I'm biracial, I associate with the black part of my heritage more than the white part of my heritage.
So for all of the talk out there about white privilege, so if you're biracial and you want to ease your life, wouldn't you identify with the white side because apparently we have privilege?
One would think.
I guess so, but it doesn't mean anything. Biracial is black and white, or whatever two races. Okay, anyway. And anti-racist Montessori educator and consultant. She spends her time baking bread, building Legos, watching British detective shows, and dreaming up how she can dismantle white supremacy.
It's a busy day.
That's a full life. How she can dismantle what essentially doesn't exist. See, you have to understand, all of this woke stuff is substitute religions. Mm. It's for people who are overwhelmingly secular. They don't have traditional Judeo-Christian religions, not Protestantism, Catholicism, Judaism, LDS, Mormonism, whatever it might be. So they need desperately to fill that hole with meaning. And they get their meaning from left-wing causes. They're secular religions.
Do I hear something interesting? What? A little side note. Back in, God, it must have been the was it the 90s when we had Prop 8 about legalizing marriage in California?
Yes.
The LDS, okay, the Mormons, they put up a lot of money to fight against that. So they were probably the reason, even in California, that did not pass. Guess who voted for the new bill to make sure that gay marriage was solidified in the United
I
States?
think I heard that was the LDS.
And Mitt Romney.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I just a little side note.
And they prove the old Chesterton line, or at least attribute it to Chesterton: when people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing, they believe in anything. So they have developed this meaning in life, dismantling white supremacy. It's a made-up meaning, but that's what happens when you lose real meaning. And
Well, white supremacy isn't a made-up meaning. He's talking about systemically.
Right.
There are white supremacists. Right. We call them Nazis or KKK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I talked to numerous people. We all have this, and this is just me saying this innate urge to worship something. If it's not God, you worship something. Yeah. And I guess the biggest religion out there now is secular humanism, where people kind of worship themselves. It's
Have you seen some of the commercials before football games and some of the stuff now?
When I watch football, yeah.
Scientology.
Yeah.
They are advertising like crazy.
Yeah.
That's talk about if you don't believe in anything, you'll believe in anything.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in God, you'll believe in anything. I don't know enough about Scientologists. See, so if there's Scientologists watching, don't come at me. I don't know a lot about it. I do know that back in the 80s, my dad freaked out when I filled out a Scientology thing because he heard about the one president that tried to get out and found a rattlesnake in his thing.
Oh, geez. Wow.
So anyway, I don't know. I'm just letting you know.
So you're not a Tom Cruise fan either?
But they did not let me go. When I told them no, I didn't want to do this, I was getting calls constantly. This is back in the day where they would call your home. Wow. So it did get kind of scary. It got kind of weird. Sorry, Tom, and John Travolta.
Yes.
You guys do you.
Yes.
And a real grasp of life. Anyway, why is it important to know that she bakes breads, builds Legos, and watches British detective shows?
It's just part of the author bio. They like to throw in.
I know they
facts.
do.
She's got a lot of time on her.
So, yeah, I understand that, but it's only fun facts. Her whole life seems to be fun facts and dismantling white supremacy. Okay. Tiffany currently lives in Western Massachusetts on the occupied land of the Wabanaki and the Nipmuc. This is the newest thing on the left. What lands did Indian tribes or Native American tribes live on? And you're supposed to say that to show how sensitive you are to that fact. Now, how do we know that the Wabanaki and Nipmuc did not take over that land from prior tribes?
Exactly.
The odds are overwhelming that they did. So should we?
But that's okay because it was an Indian tribe or a Native American tribe taking it over from another. But when the white man takes it over, then it's bad.
Yes. And one thing I noticed about the author that Dennis missed, or maybe he didn't read it, he didn't let us know what color suit the author was wearing.
Color suit.
Yeah, because that's always important to know. And I'm wearing a blue suit.
Well, I don't get it. They said she's in Burbank, but she lives in Massachusetts. Is she zooming
I think she lives in
Burbank?
Massachusetts, and whatever book she published is being used predominantly by this school in Burbank.
Okay.
We try to find that out and say which they are occupied the lands of. Okay. With her two young activists, her partner, and a turtle she's had since she was 9. What does that mean, her two young activists? I assume her children?
Yeah.
And she calls them activists?
The children.
Well, that's what she's training them to be. That's honest. Okay, so she's the one who wrote this book. This book is anti-racist for middle school. And this is what they're giving out at schools. They're not teaching your kids how to read better, write better, think better about history, math, whatever. This is what is overwhelmingly now offered as education. It's very sad. So here, for example, reverse racism is not real. That's it.
It's that old thing that I can be racist, you can't.
Right. But I'll agree with that. Reverse racism isn't real because there's no such thing as reverse racism.
Just racism.
It's just racism.
Yeah.
I cannot like white people for a certain reason. White people cannot like me for a certain reason. Hispanics can hate Asians. There's just racism.
You see? So this was taught to me, by the way, when I was in college. This is not new. I was told blacks cannot be racist. This was told to me by my professors.
Trust me, they can.
And that was my beginning, along with a few other things, of understanding I might be a liberal, but I would never be a leftist. Because that is a morally absurd line. A black cannot be a racist is morally absurd. Any evil whites can do, blacks can do. Any good whites can do, blacks can do.
Sounds
and
simple.
Vice versa. It's just the way it works. But they say since whites have power, blacks cannot be racist. So they never addressed the issue, and I remember raising it, but never getting a coherent response. So in Africa, where blacks are in charge, can they be racist in Africa? Can a black be racist in Africa, where they
South Africa
do have the power? It's worth asking.
Well, I guess that would go to, the biggest population are Chinese, Asians.
Right.
So obviously a Chinese can't be racist here because we have the power, but can Chinese be racist in which they put the Uyghur Muslims in camps?
Right.
Is that not a racist thing to do? Or because they're not white, it doesn't count?
My head hurts.
So, by the way, if you are a young black and impressionable, this gives you a sort of free pass in life.
Yep.
Hey, whites can be evil, but not you, at least insofar as racism is concerned.
So before we go on, this brings me to it. If you haven't seen it, we didn't get a chance to cover it, but if you haven't, looked up the girl who basically roasted her father at his funeral. She was a biracial, but I've seen some of her TikToks now. They're truly evil. They're horrible. They're sick, actually. I wouldn't say evil. They're sick. So she looks biracial. So I have a feeling she didn't feel she fit in here. She's trying so hard to fit in. She's going to an HBCU college. But she basically spit on her own father's grave, which he sent her to all these private schools.
Right.
Yeah, it's disgusting. I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah.
So next, by not allowing yourself to see someone's race, you are not seeing them as a whole person. You are looking at them through a skewed lens. You see them only how you want to see them. You are looking at them through your lens of comfort. You are not seeing your students and their families how they want to and need to be seen.
So basically she's saying you have to look at him. I have to look at Cedric as a black man. I can't look at him as Cedric.
Right.
If I don't look at him as a black man, I am skewing how I'm looking at him. That's what this author is saying.
But that's just a small part of who anybody is, your ethnic identity.
It's
And I got that when I was back in the day when we went to college. I don't know if the school did this on purpose. I went to a small school in Irvine, California. At the time, it was a predominantly white area. And my roommate was a black guy. So I don't know if they did that on purpose. Like, just put they got to have something in common. They're black, so we'll put them together. But there was another gentleman, and he was from Long Beach. And people asked us throughout the course of the year, and in my time there, why we weren't the best of friends. We didn't have a lot in common. Morally,
you were the same color.
We're the same color.
Talking about that's all. According to this author, whatever her name is, I don't even want to say it again. That's the most important thing, and it's just so weird that they're teaching this and people don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand.
This is the fight against colorblind, the concept of being colorblind. That's wrong. So this is a perfect example of a difference between liberal and left. Liberalism advocates for color blindness, and leftism advocates for being preoccupied with color. So let's analyze this. By not allowing yourself to see someone's race, you are not seeing them as a whole person. Let me put it to you the opposite way. By concentrating on a person's race, you are not seeing them as a whole person. Are you your race? You watching me now, if you're black, is that the primary constituent of your character and life and meaning, your blackness? I suspect not. I suspect not for any number of reasons. First, because it isn't true for almost anybody except for true racists.
So that's a great point. So, and this is when we go back to, if you're black or if you're one of these anti-racist people that promotes this, basically you have to identify as black, number one.
Yep.
That is, if you were looking at a white person and they identified as white, you would think that person's a racist.
Yep.
They're a white supremacist.
They have to be.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
And that brings me back to the girl who spit on her father's grave. Her white father called him he liked Trump, so we know how the whole thing started. So he was a racist and all that. She identifies as a black supremacist. So I guess it's okay to be a black supremacist, but you can't be obviously a white supremacist, and I would never promote anybody being a white supremacist. But why is it okay to be a black supremacist?
And if you listen to the media back in 2020 during the summer when everything was burning.
Summer of Love?
Summer of Love. That's what the media was trying to get us to believe. Like, every black person had to be outraged about what happened to Breonna Taylor, what happened to Jacob Blake, or what happened to George Floyd, who was a guy in Wisconsin, Michael Brown. And the media said...
Is that Wisconsin or Baltimore?
Kept saying...
That was
Baltimore?
That was Michael Brown's Baltimore.
Michael Moore. They kept saying...
Blake was Wisconsin.
We as black people should be outraged.
I know.
I'm like, I don't know these people. I don't get upset every time. I mean, I feel a little sadness when a white person dies, when an Asian person dies, but they said, no, you need to be outraged when a black person is killed by the system because you could be next.
Tony Timpa.
Nobody
ever heard of Tony Timpa. Look it up. Tony Timpa around the same time as George Floyd. We did a whole episode on it. Look it up. We weren't told to be outraged as white people. But like Cedric just said, you were supposed to be outraged about George Floyd.
Yep.
White, for a white, their primary identity or even large identity, when a black looks into a mirror, say your name is Jim, and you're black, and you look in the mirror when you wake up in the morning, do you see a black man or do you see Jim? Do I see a white man or do I see Dennis? It never occurs to me that I see a white man. I see Dennis.
Well, for us, we just look in the mirror and say, what a good-looking guy.
Actually, I look in the mirror and say, my beard is lacking during this No-Shave November. It needs to get a little bit stronger. I'm working on that.
I see you're using Just for Men, though. I don't see a lot of gray in there.
You got your nerve.
You missed up here, though. You got to put it all the way up.
Jeez.
Wow. In fact, if you want, I have a minority identity too, Jew. I don't look in the mirror and go, look, a Jew. Why?
Except for when he looks down after he takes a shower, he goes, oh, that's right, I am a Jew.
I'll let you explain that.
It's very important to me, my Judaism. Extremely important. But when I look in the mirror, that's not what I see. I just see Dennis. And that's healthy. That's the ideal.
Do we trigger anybody?
I'm sure we always do.
They're being taught, you are being taught, if you were a kid today, very, very sick stuff. This is immoral. This is bad stuff. It's not just wrong, it's bad. To reduce people in any way to their race. Anyway, let's say, so you're black. What do you have in common with another black other than color? Nothing. Nothing. What do you have in common with a black from the Caribbean or a black from West Africa or East Africa or South Africa? Nothing. What do I have in common with a white from Poland? No knock on Poland, obviously. In fact, I'm headed there. I enjoy Poland a great deal. But we speak different languages. They're mostly Catholic. I'm a Jew. They're East European. I'm in the Western.
So I don't want to just gloss over this. This is the point that Cedric makes all the time. But in the media, if you're black, you're supposed to think a certain way. Mm-hmm. If you're white, you can think any way you want. So the media puts him into this box that he's supposed to be. So Marcio, if you're watching this, it's what we try to say is just because you're the same shade doesn't mean you're going to think alike or have anything in common with. Cedric has nothing in common with, let's say, Barack Obama.
No.
Okay.
No.
And then he has nothing in common with
George Floyd.
Yeah. Just like, and you would expect that from me. You know that as a white guy, the media would say, yeah, you know, you're way different than the good liberal or the good leftist, you know, the people on the news, but not anywhere close to the Trump white people. So those white people can be different. But if Cedric steps out of that box, God forbid.
Yeah. And race is like, it's okay as a descriptor. And I always say that.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to say, well, you know, Cedric, like, well, who is he? Like, you know, the black guy. But a lot of people get offended by that. And it's such a terrible thing to say. It's like, no, it's a descriptor of who I am, but it doesn't encompass my entire being. But yeah, you can say, I said, you know, the black guy.
Yeah, if you're trying to explain something, or, you know, or you could go roundabout, like I saw on a comedy thing. You know, the guy with the black hair. He has a black beard. Is he black? Oh, I don't know.
I won't say. I didn't notice.
See that. So that's where I differ from Dennis. There is no true color blindness, but we don't want to assume somebody is a certain way because of the shade of their skin. It doesn't make any sense. But like Cedric said, it's a descriptor. So when Cedric says, he jokes around, when he tells people about our channel, he goes, I'm the black guy, he's the white guy.
Right.
It's a descriptor. Yeah. It's easy. Although, I've never met a white Cedric.
I think I've known of one during my entire life.
Yeah.
I think it's a very old Celtic or Celtic name, but
yeah.
Usually when you hear the word Cedric, you think
Cedric the Entertainer.
A black guy. Yeah. It's a damn shame.
Damn shame. Brian can go either way, though. I've met black Brians, white Brians,
yeah,
a lot of Asian Brians for some reason.
It's a uniracial name.
A product of Western European culture. I mean, do I have anything in common with an American leftist who's American and white? Nothing. We have nothing in common. We see the world completely differently. Our moral differences are unbridgeable. The notion that you have something in common with another person because you have their color is sick and a lie. You might not, but it's not an issue of color. This is what's being taught in Burbank, California in schools. Obviously, it makes me angry. Well, you're looking at them through a skewed lens. If you only see the person and not the color, it's a skewed lens. It's not a skewed lens if you see their color first. What else here? The dominant culture is the group of people in society who hold the most power and are often, but not always, in the majority. In the U.S. and the U.K., people who are white, middle class, Christian, and cisgender are the dominant culture. They are in charge of the institutions and have established behaviors, values, and traditions that are considered acceptable and the norm in our countries. Okay, that's true. So the only question is, are they good norms or bad norms? That's the only question. By the way, it says Christian. I'm Jewish. I'm perfectly at peace with Christians being in the dominant culture in America. They made the best country Jews have ever lived in. And I know Jewish history real well. I've taught Jewish history on the college level.
Well, and I would say, I don't want to speak for you, but they probably made the best country today, not 100 years ago, for black people right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, maybe out there, maybe Germany is better. I don't know. I know I had a friend who moved to Germany, who was black, and he loved it there. So maybe some Europeans, but again, those are white European countries.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of youth today, and it's really popular among our youth, our high school kids. They just hate our country so much. And so the question I ask, and we always get a lot of hate from people when we say this, is like, I don't want to say, why don't you leave? But I do want to say, where else would you go? And if I got you a plane ticket tomorrow, would you leave here? Where would you go? And I can't get an answer. And
if they're black, do you want to go to a black dominant or black majority country? If that's what we boil everything down to, is color, is that you're oppressed because you live in a country that's dominated by white people. Do you want to go live in a country that's dominated by black people?
Right. And it's like,
and that goes back to what Dennis said. It doesn't mean you have anything in common with them.
Yeah.
Other than the color of your skin.
Yeah. And I just, it's just crazy because this is like the best country if you choose to get up each morning and make the best out of it.
I wrote a book on anti-Semitism. I know this stuff pretty well. You're a pretty damn lucky Jew, my father taught me, if you're a Jew in America. even with the dominant, not even with, maybe because of the dominant Christian culture. I love Christmas time. It's not my religious holiday, but I love Christmas time. I've talked about that on a few occasions. God, are these people superficial? They are so superficial. Their superficiality, their shallowness is actually deep. Okay? That's what they're learning in our schools. That's why I advocate getting your kids out of these schools.
Good stuff, Dennis. Good stuff.
So yeah, it's I wanted to play this one because it kind of encapsulates a lot of what Cedric and I talk about, because our channel grew during the 2020 Summer of Love. I mean, that's when we really took off, because we were in a culture that all these white kids that my kids knew all of a sudden started buying into all of this anti-racism stuff. And I couldn't understand it. I could understand how you can get, it was a very emotional thing, and we know that people act on emotions. So it was emotional seeing that video over and over again. Of course, like I said again, they never showed Tony Timpa's. We watched Tony Timpa. Almost the same thing, only what made it even worse for Tony Timpa is they were actually laughing.
Right.
The police were laughing, and they go, "Oh my God, I think he's dead," and they're kind of giggling. They didn't do that with George Floyd. George Floyd, the cops were scared to death because there was basically a bunch of angry people around him. So they were both bad things that happened. Tony Timpa didn't have fentanyl in his system.
Right.
So if we're going to, compare apples to apples, why don't you go look at those two stories and then look at how the media tries to divide us and know who the enemy is. Marcio, I don't know if you're watching again. Sorry to keep bringing you up. But who's the enemy here? Is it us that are just trying to look through past race and color, or is it the media that focuses on color?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always use this analogy. It's like, whatever you're looking for out there, you will find it.
Yeah.
If you're looking for racism, it's out there.
Yeah.
There are individuals out there, white and black, who are racist individuals. And if you wake up each morning and you look for that, you will find it. But contrary, if you wake up and you look for the good in people, you will find that also. Now, that's not like a panacea type of explanation I just gave, like, oh, don't worry, be happy, everything will be great. You're still going to have troubles. That doesn't escape anybody.
Everybody has troubles.
But what are you focusing on? Because whatever you focus on, that's what you're going to find every single day.
And that's how people take that term racism and make it so broad. So again, I won't mention your name again, but you know what I'm talking about. Apparently I'm racist and he's got Stockholm syndrome, because people will call anything racist now. If you're white, I guess it's just, you assume, number one, that the person's racist, and then if they kowtow to the left, then somehow they're not as racist as if they were.
Yeah.
That's how they see the world. So apparently, I'm a racist who has a best friend that's black and a wife that's Hispanic, but it doesn't matter. I'm still racist according to these people. So I don't know what the definition of racism is.
Yeah. Brian has to put this picture up mainly because it's my proud dad moment. But just last week, my biracial, predominantly black daughter just got her wings. She has a degree in kinesiology, but that wasn't her passion. She loves to travel. So she became an airline stewardess with Delta. That's her passion, to travel. So my black daughter was one of the biggest airlines out there, and she was the valedictorian of her class. Not because she's black and part white or biracial or whatever it is, but she went to the training, she bust her ass, and she was rewarded for it. You just got to stop making excuses. And I get to fly for free. I got to pay the taxes.
Yeah.
I keep saying free. But maybe I can get with the taxes by saying I'm black. Maybe I can say, you should let me not pay the tax because I'm black, and the man's trying to keep me grounded.
I think it's time for the comment.
Okay.
You had a comment by the guy that I keep bringing up. I'm sorry I called you out, buddy. We actually enjoy that you watch our show because, we preach a lot to the choir. So it's nice to have a conversation with somebody who doesn't agree with us but is willing to watch our show. So we appreciate it. So
this is kind of a long comment. You want to read the whole thing?
Yeah, you can read fast, can't you?
Oh, jeez. Okay, hold on here. All right, this is from the Upchurch video we did, and this individual says...
From that racist Ryan Upchurch.
Yes. He said, and we did a little gag we've done before. He says, when Cedric and Brian compared their skin colors to the shirt and coffee mug in a roundabout way, they admitted the race is a social construct and only the meaning and relevance we give it. True.
You're making our point for us.
Yes. This Upchurch dude is pretty mediocre. Coming from someone who's not musically talented, whatever.
Hey, maybe he is musically talented.
I can hear the hip-hop beat underneath the country twang. Yes, he is racist, and the Confederate flag confirms it.
So all of those black guys and girls that we showed in episodes past with the Confederate flag that live in the South, I guess they defy the odds because you can't be racist if you're black. But since they have the Confederate flag, according to Marcio, they're racist.
Right. Our next video, I'm going to cover that. The Confederate flag was conspicuous, although not on full display, and white Southerners have no problem lying to your face about, quote, heritage and states' rights, end quote, and denying its true history and what the Confederacy stood for, which was white supremacy. Full stop. It is despicable and disgusting that white Southerners will pass off the Confederate flag as something to be proud of. It is not. Of course, Cedric and Brian somehow saw past that and barely mentioned it. I like this channel, but seeing these dudes point the finger and say they are brainwashed/indoctrinated when talking about liberals, meanwhile, they spot the same rhetoric, propaganda, and talking points of conservative Republicans and never see the irony. Bum, 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 bum.
We do see the irony. We do. Look, we know we're skewed one way, but we try to come at it honestly. We don't say just because Ryan Upchurch has a Confederate flag that he's a racist. We don't know what's in his heart. You're using that term, again, very broadly because you've accused me of being a racist in some of your past comments. So I'm guessing that you're young because your certainty is something I remember having when I was a young man. As you get older, you realize you don't know what you don't know, and you will learn that over time.
Wow.
The certainty, people that are that certain,
Yeah.
You got to look inside yourself.
Absolutely.
And you can't call people something just because you think they are.
Yes. This video's gone on a little bit longer than most.
But you know what? I think it's an important one, and I hope you hung through it with us.
Yes. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell, and please continue sharing our channel with everyone you know.
Especially you, Marcio.
People you don't know. Hope you guys have an incredible time together. Keep loving on each other. And until next time, I'm Cedric.
I'm Brian. We'll see you later.